most guitar players know basic chords and maybe one position of the pentatonic scale. Now I'm going to show you what I see on the fretboard, why it's important, and how you can easily learn all of this. Sounds good? Let's go. So we're going to start simple and expand from there. Don't try to learn everything, okay? You might get lost at some point, and it's fine. That's not the point for today. The point is not for you to learn everything. It's just a demonstration. See what's possible. So I got this E-shaped A minor. Most people call it the barred chord. If you know the Cage system, you know that this is an E shape, right? So I know that in this chord shape, I have my root, a fifth, another root, the octave. I got a third, it's a minor third in this case, a fifth, and another root. Now instantly when I look at this A minor, I see three pentatonic chord shapes. Of course, position 1, because it's kind of glued to that chord shape, right? But I also see position 2 and position 5, because they're both connected to my position 1. I basically see those as one giant position. I think I heard Joshua de la Victoria say he called those superposition, and I kind of like that, so I might steal that. So when I play this chord, I see those three positions. That doesn't mean that I don't know position 3 and 4 of the pentatonic scale. Of course I do, but that's not what I see the first time that I play this chord. I see those when I play the A-shaped chord. Now in each of these three positions, I see the root everywhere. There are other intervals that I know by heart, but most of them I can figure out where they are based on where they are according to the root, right? So I don't need to memorize all of them. I can find them very quickly. What else? On the sixth string, I see two triad shape. I got root, third, fifth here. Same thing, root, third, fifth. Just like the chord, right? They're the same notes, root, third, and fifth. On the fifth string here, I see an inversion, right? It's called an inversion, the second inversion in this case, because the fifth is on top instead of the root. On the fourth string, I see the same two triad shapes I had on my sixth string, right? With the root, third, and fifth. On the second string, I have my second triad inversion, same on the fifth string. And I know that it's linked to my triad, just 3 steps away, they're linked by the third. This is a lead guitar player thing. We tend to stack those up against each other a lot. I see the other chords of the A minor scale around that chord. So I got my 7, I got my 3, 4, 5, 6. I know the second chord is there too, the diminished. I had to mention it because the nerd would crucify me in the comments. I also know that technically it's not called the minor scale, it's the Aeolian mode from the Ionian mode from the major scale. It doesn't matter. Most people call it the minor scale, so that's what I'm gonna call it. It's more important to know your audience than to try to look smart on YouTube, right? Now I also see those chords as C shapes, D shape, and G shape, right? The third chord plays great as a G shape. The fifth chord I can play as a C shape, a C minor shape in this case. The sixth chord, a great C shape. And then the D shape for my 7 chord. Now in each of these shapes, I know where the root, the third, and the fifth are. All of them. That's important to know. And all of these shapes, well, when I look at them, I see a bunch of triads around them. And I don't mean like the 3-string triads that are already present in this chord shape, but I do mean around it. The C shape has this triad on the 5th string that I can expand into a string skipping arpeggio, Paul Gilbert style. The A shape has this triad on the 5th string, and I can expand this into this arpeggio. Then when I play it, makes everything sounds like Yngwie Malmsteen. Back to my A minor chord, I know these two 6th interval will sound weird against my 1 chord and my A. Even though they're in the scale, they're not wrong notes. So I know that I can borrow these two sharp 6 from the Dorian mode, which is a minor mode but with a major 6. So I'll usually avoid that minor 6 when I'm playing over the 1 chord and instead substitute for that major or that Dorian 6. It's not in the scale, but to my ear it sounds better. It's less tense. I also know that even it's a minor scale, I can borrow the major third instead of my regular minor third. And if I play in my pentatonic, it's gonna sound like the Mixolydian mode, which is a major mode, but with a flat 7 or minor 7. So it's the most minor of the major modes. Speaking of pentatonics, I know which of these notes will sound spicy over my one chord and which of them will resolve it. Free tip, it's the 1, 3, and 5, just like my chord, right? So these notes will resolve my licks. The other notes, they do sound good, but they don't sound at home. They want to resolve somewhere. They don't want to stay there, suspended. Now, I do know more theory, but this is what I see when I look at this A minor chord. Now, for many of you, that will seem like a lot, and you're probably wondering right now, how am I gonna learn all of this crap? But don't worry, it's only hard if you try to learn everything at the same time. But if you're curious like me, this should get you excited and want to know more. Some other, they're already typing on the comments saying how much better than me they are, how much more they see around that chord shape on the fretboard, and how ashamed I should be for even entertaining the idea of teaching anyone on YouTube. Now these guys, they used to get their lunch money stolen by big dumb offensive linemen that thought they hated nerd, but truly they were angry at their dads and they took it out on nerds because they didn't fight back. Now these nerds, they haven't forgotten what it's like to be bullied, right? But they haven't figured out yet that they're doing the same thing online, right? They're bullying players that have not reached their level yet, maybe, because it makes them feel superior. They're gatekeeping. And that in D&D would be called failing a wisdom check. Moving on to why you would ever want to learn all of this. I've always wanted to be unique, to stand out from the crowd like my favorite players, Marty Friedman, Mattias Eklund. My Swedish is non-existent, bro. I am so sorry. When these guys play, I can recognize them instantly. I know it's them. Maybe I want to be unique because it makes me feel superior or special. I don't know. But it's really important for me in the context of music, because music is expression. It's taking stuff that's in your head and putting it out there. And if what I put out there is the same as everybody else, what does it tell about what's in my head? During my first 5 years of guitar playing, I would hate theory, and I refused to learn any theory because I thought it would turn me into a bland, robotic, academic type player. And I hated these guys because I thought they were I do as I'm told kind of guys. But it's stupid. It's so dumb. It's like saying, I don't want to learn too many words because then I'll talk just like everybody else does. See how stupid that sounds? I'm pretty sure that's the opposite. Now at that time, I knew open chords, power chords, of course, I'm a metalhead. I knew maybe 1.5 positions of pentatonic scale. That's about it. And I'd rely a lot on my ears to, figure stuff out when playing by ear, which is both a blessing and a crutch, because it fooled me into thinking I didn't need to learn anything else. But one day I heard Flying in a Blue Dream by Joe Satriani, and I didn't know why, but there was something different about this track. There was something weird in his note choice that made this song strangely beautiful. I couldn't figure out, but I knew he was doing something special. That was around 2003, right? I was just starting to use the internet as a proper research tool. So I learned in some guitar forum that Joe was using the Lydian mode. Now at that time, I didn't know what modes were. I didn't know the whole major scale. I didn't know much, all right? But something sparked. I was starting to see that learning theory could open doors that I didn't know existed. I was hooked. I needed to know more. And the more I learned, the more I noticed that my favorite bands kind of sounded all the same, right? Think about it. There are 7 chords in the scale. Most songs have 4 chords riffs and they stay in the same scale for the whole song. Even in metal, where there's a lot of single stuff happening, you can always prune that to just 1 chord. So how many 4 chords combination can you do? Not a lot. Well, it's not enough to keep things interesting, at least. So you can imagine how stupid I felt when I realized that my refusal to learn theory was making me sound like everybody else. So as I started to stack some more theory and knowledge, a few things happened. First, I was learning songs by ear a lot faster. Because when you know the key that you're playing in, what chords are available in that key, what notes you can play, and every position of that scale on the fretboard, there's no more guesswork. 90% of what people play in these songs, well, it's going to be in the scale. It's going to be within these 7 chords. And when it's not, because your ear is getting used to it, you're going to pick up that something's out of place immediately, which also makes your job easier. A lot of people that don't play guitar are really impressed whenever I pick up a song, a pop song, in like 10 seconds before I can start to play it. They think it's amazing, but it's not that impressive. Here's why. If I throw a sentence at you, can you repeat it after me? Of course you can. It's easy because you know words and syntax, and when I speak words that you understand, well, it makes sense and you can pick it up and you can repeat it back. Simple, right? Et si je te parle en français, est-ce que tu peux répéter toute ma phrase sans te tromper? Now, can you repeat that sentence perfectly? Probably not. Not unless you know French. Because what you heard me say didn't make any sense to you. You don't speak French. Well, music theory is the same. It's the language of music. So if you learn it, you can speak it. What happened is I started to write better music, better riffs, because I knew what scales and what chord could better convey the emotions that I wanted out of the song. You know, I knew what chord would sound cheesy, and I knew enough theory to mix it up to make things more interesting. For example, if that E minor is kind of boring, I can sprinkle some D over it. Also, it's the name of your sex tape. Sprinkle some D over it. Now, how do I know that these 2 chords can fit together? Theory! You know, I can use the circle of fifth to pick a chord that could sound great in this chord progression, even if it's not in the scale. I can use modes to borrow chords from to replace mine. If I'm in E minor and I don't like the sound of that A minor, it's too cheesy, well, I can replace it with the A7 from the E Dorian mode. Third thing that happened, I could speak the language of music to other musicians, right? I could tell my bandmates to try certain chords, to try certain harmonies. Even if they themselves didn't know this theory, I could show them exactly what to try. I could play with a pianist and he'd tell me, hey man, we're in B minor playing 1, 4, and 7, and I would know that we're playing B minor, E minor, and A. And if he says, dude, you know what? I don't like B minor, let's play A minor. All right, fine. So I got 1, 4, 7. So it's A minor, D minor, and G. So if all of this sounds interesting to you and you're done feeling clueless about your fretboard, well, this is how I recommend you learn this. One thing at a time. Don't try to rush this. If you take it slow, it's gonna add up, and before long, you're gonna feel like a Jedi. Learn the cage system. Most people make the same mistakes. They learn cowboy chords and they think they're done with the cage. Nope. Other will learn that they can map out the pentatonic scale using the cage system. Nice, but that's not quite it either. First, you learn the root, third, and fifth in each one of these chord shape. At first, you don't have to learn the name of all of the notes, but knowing the name of the root, of course, and then knowing that this is the third, this is the fifth, that will take you a long way. Learn how to play every chord using every shape. Yes, that means doing a C chord shape all the way over there in the neck. My favorite way to practice and teach this is to play a song you already know or just a song that you like and play it in only one chord shape. So let's say only in the D chord shape or D minor. This will unlock so much of the neck for you. Then you learn the 5 position of the pentatonic scale. All of them. I mean, it's less notes and fewer position than modes, so it's easier. That's why we start there. You have to learn to see the root of the scale in every position and learn at least to figure out where the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the seventh are based with that root. And before long, you're gonna know what a fifth looks like on one string below, on one string higher. Same thing with the third. What a minor looks like, what a major looks like on the same string, on two separate strings. You're using one concept, the pentatonics, to learn another one, intervals. Then we learn the 7 chords of the major scale. And what we call the natural minor scale, that's actually the Aeolian mode. So we got 3 major chords and their 3 minor relatives, always 3 half steps away. So that's 6 chord. And then we add the diminished, and that's 7. So many players don't know what chords you can play in a scale, and it's a huge gap in their knowledge. But not for you, not anymore. As you're learning this, do learn the Nashville number system. That way you can transpose any riff, any song in any key super quickly on the spot. Also learn that some of these chords have major 7, minor 7. You need to know which one. And the Nashville number system is going to help you with that too. Then learn to see the caged chord in the pentatonic scale. What I mean is all 7 chords in each of the 5 pentatonic positions. Then you learn triads. Now, why do we learn triads before the actual modes? I mean, most teachers start first thing of the first class with the C major scale. I mean, with triads, you can actually play lead and melodies over chords without knowing what scale you're playing over. Then you learn the 7 modes of the major scale. Now, why so late? Look at this C Ionian all over the neck. This actually makes people go, whoa, I gotta learn all of this? But if you know your pentatonics already, you'll see how the 2 overlap and you're basically just adding 2 notes. Learn how these modes differ from each other, the different vibes you can get from them. For example, Ionian, Lydian, Mixolydian, they're all major modes. But the Ionian sounds kind of cheesy, kind of poppy. The Lydian sounds dreamy and intriguing. The Mixolydian sounds bluesy or sometimes Celtic, depending how you use it. Learn the circle of fifths. 4th and 5th are extremely strong chords, and it's good to be able to figure out where they are quickly. When going up a 5th or down a 4th, scales only have one different note. Example, going from E minor to B minor scale, there's only one note that's different. We're going from that C to that C sharp. So it's useful for key changes or borrowing chords. A lot of people use it like as a crutch to remember chords in a scale, and I hate that. I mean, are you gonna carry a pocket version of the circle of fifths in your gig bag when you're going to band practice? Nah. But there's so much to learn with the circle of fifths. Don't dismiss this as just a quick tool to remember the 4th and the 5th. It's a lot more than that. Now, there's a lot more stuff to learn, of course, but by then you'll know so much more than the average guitar player. You won't be limited by your knowledge. And knowing this much theory will make pop music sound like baby crap. You'll probably start listening to some obscure fusion band because nothing else will sound exciting anymore. This is gonna ruin music for you. Yeah, maybe I should have started with that. Cut that part out. Many players are intimidated by learning the 7 modes of the major scale, but I got a 2 minutes warm-up that if you learn this, when you get to modes, it's gonna feel like you already know all of them. Guys, I appreciate you watching the whole thing till the end. Cheers.